Okay, so we're recording, so we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the nursing information session. This is the information session for the 2-year program that starts in the fall in September. We'll go ahead and do some introductions. I'm Dr. Crystal Bowman. I'm the Dean of Nursing and Allied Health here at Oregon Coast Community College. I oversee nursing, LPN to RN, medical assistant, nursing assistant, and EMT. Professor Sky, would you like to introduce yourself?
Um, Theory, actual in class.
I think your audio is breaking up. Um, I caught like every third word. So Professor Sky is she's actually the assistant director of nursing, and she's teaches all of the first year content as well. So we work really closely together. Blake, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, my name is Blake Hagan. I'm the nursing or the advisor for nursing and allied health, also known as student success coach. You can use those interchangeably. So I'm pretty new to nursing for this program, so I'm still getting some of my bearings, but trying to learn quickly and hope to help you guys kind of work through the process.
Thanks, Blake. So on this slide, you'll see everything that we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about why you're choosing nursing, just some different career opportunities that this program will open doors for you for. Blake will talk to you a little bit about the advising process. Some of you may already know about it and have done it. Some of you may have more to do with Blake. So you can talk about how he prefers you get in touch with him and what his requirements are for you to meet. We'll talk about the application process itself. It's a little bit confusing at times. There's a lot of moving pieces to it. We'll talk about some resources that you have available to you. Blake can touch on financial aid. And then I have a slide on frequently asked questions that I'll go over. And then it'll be your time to ask any questions that you'd like answered. So why nursing and why OCCC? We are the only community college in Lincoln County. So that is one of the reasons. People that enter the 2-year nursing program are usually located within our county that want to pursue nursing. They're either already working in healthcare, are interested in working in healthcare, live and work in the community, and really want to be part of the healthcare pipeline in Lincoln County. Our class sizes are fairly small. This is important just because we do get to know all of you on a personal basis. First year, it will go up to 40 students. And then we have a second year class that's comprised of ongoing first year students and then also LPN to RN students. We take pride in personalized interactions with you all. We get to know who your kids are, who your partners are, what you do for a living. We have a really robust mentorship program that we focus on, and the priorities of that program are to make sure that we retain you in the program as students so that you can graduate and join the healthcare community in Lincoln County or beyond, wherever you choose to go after graduation. We are deeply involved in the community. Every nursing student is required to do 24 hours of community service every term as part of the program. It counts as clinical hours. So we get extremely involved in our communities. Some examples are we work a lot of vaccine clinics. We do work at food banks. We go into Lincoln County schools and talk about nursing. There's just an endless amount of opportunities within the community. We also pride ourselves on having an open door policy. Not only will you be assigned a mentor, all of us are open door, or believe in an open door policy. So you don't have to just talk to, like if you're a first year student, Professor Sky will be your primary professor. I teach second year. So, but it doesn't mean you can't come to me as the second year professor and also as the dean of the program. The only thing that we always make sure of is that you're following like a proper chain of command based on whatever situation it is going on. Our cost is lower than bigger universities. We do have a high success rate, and that success rate is your NCLEX pass rate. So at the end of the program, you have the opportunity to sit for the National State Board of Nursing exam, which is your NCLEX exam. It's what qualifies you to be a nurse. And our pass rates are 97%. We recently have done a lot of work with curriculum and then through our mentoring program and some really targeted test taking strategies and intervention programs. We've been able to raise our pass rates from the low 80s to the high 97s. We always are striving for that 100%, and we are getting there. And then a big thing that is becoming more appealing is that we are starting a BSN degree. We are in a consortium with 6 other community colleges, and the purpose of that is that you will be able to also obtain a bachelor's degree from Oregon Coast Community College. It just allows you to stay in the community, attend a bachelor's program close to home, and then your bachelor's degree would be conferred by us here at OCCC. It starts in the fall of 2026. So you entering the program now has a really good potential for you to also enter that program, just a seamless transition into a baccalaureate degree program. Anything you want to add, Willow or Blake, to this?
Not right now.
So nursing in general, it is an excellent profession in terms of longevity, in terms of being future oriented. It opens up a lot of doors. It also is a very good wage. These are current average salaries for nurses in Oregon as of 2022. So you can see that Oregon is above the national average at roughly $49 an hour. And then you can see how that breaks out there in terms of Oregon consistently being above the national average in terms of hourly, monthly, and annual employment salaries. This is the RN workforce projection in Oregon versus the United States. You can see in Oregon, there were 41,000 nurses employed in 2020. The projected employment in 2030 is 45,980 nurses. So this is a profession that continues to grow. The projected growth is about 12% per year. And they don't expect it, there is no expectation that that will change simply because the population is aging. For the first time in history, there are more people in the United States that are over the age of 60 than are being born. So this is creating an influx of patients into the healthcare system, which in turn, we're going to need nurses to take care of them. In terms of advancement, there's a lot of different places you can go as a nurse. The next step after an associate's degree would be your bachelor's degree, then on to a master's degree, PhD, nurse practitioner. There's just so many different avenues that you can go depending on your interest. So with experience, with a bachelor's degree, you can advance to becoming a head nurse or a charge nurse or anywhere else you want to be. And then you can also get into leadership and management and then just go from there. This is just a look at how nursing salaries compare. If you're an LPN versus nurse anesthetist, midwife, nurse practitioner, and then a registered nurse in Oregon. It is worth mentioning that with the 2-year program, after you have completed the first year in the nursing program, you qualify to receive an LPN certificate from the college. So that qualifies you to apply for testing as an LPN through the Oregon State Board of Nursing. So we do have quite a few students that opt for that. Is at that 1-year mark, they do get their LPN license, and then they work a little bit as an LPN during their 2nd year. So that's always an option that you have too. Many of you will still choose to work as certified nursing assistants, medical assistants, whatever you're currently doing now for employment. We have a very unique advising setup in nursing. So nursing is one of the few areas that has its own standalone advisor, and that's Professor Lynn Barton. And then Blake, and when he introduced himself, he noted that he was the student success coach for nursing and allied health. So how that works is you are going to be working with Blake until you are accepted into the program. Once you receive acceptance into the program, then Professor Barton becomes your advisor and Blake becomes more of a resource and support for you. I will turn it over to Blake to talk about that a little bit.
Hi, yeah, so just a few things about my role in advising. So um, basically after, yeah, applying for Oregon Coast Community College admission, it's probably a good idea to do that first before meeting with me. A lot of times, you might, especially if you have transcripts that you're coming over, we can work on getting those officially evaluated. I can look at them and give you usually a good idea, but it's nice to have the registrar put, they're the ones that have the official say over what transfers. So that's something that we can work on. Um, Anything that you need to plan for before registering for classes is something that we can obviously work together with. Or just anything you need to talk about at all as far as preparing or just even stuff outside of school, because the goal is to put you in the best spot to hopefully get in. Um, so yeah, you can meet with me over Zoom, on the phone, or in person. I'm pretty flexible with that. You can always just shoot me an email as well. Sometimes we can work through some things just through an email exchange. Depends on what it is. Um, on our website, there's a student services dropdown. If you go there, under quick links is our advising page, and that's where you can make an appointment with me and see some more information there. And then that's just my email address. So I think I got ahead of myself just a little bit, but the transcript piece is a big one. That's going to determine whether you're eligible to apply for the program, seeing what you have, all that good stuff. So that's a big piece. Just checking in about your goals, making sure that a lot of you already kind of know what you're going for, but sometimes not so much, and that's okay. We can explore other options or see what the best pathway for you is going to be. Placement is a big piece. If any of you or any student that is kind of starting from the beginning, we might need to talk about math, reading, and writing. Those are key areas to be placed into certain classes. So the prerequisites is kind of the big thing. Again, if you're starting from the beginning, um, you might see that we require anatomy and physiology as a series that you need to complete, or at least the first two before applying for the program. But to prepare for that, as well as preparing for another key course, microbiology, you have to take cell biology, biology 112. So that's in the spring before you would start the other classes. So making sure those pieces come together, starting with math especially, is big to make sure that you're able to move forward and progress through the prereqs that you need. So we'll talk about that. Um, Financial aid, it's a big one. Obviously, you want to apply for the FAFSA, and once you do that, make sure you list our school. We get that information, and then you have your financial aid portal through us. That's in your My.Oregon Coast account. So there'll probably be some requirements or things that you have to complete before we can make you an offer. And so those two pieces, the federal level, the FAFSA application, and then working through the requirements you need through your financial aid portal through OCCC are the two key pieces. And so if you have questions about that or are stuck at all, you can always reach out to me. If you're brand new, we also like to do orientations where we just kind of go over the ins and outs of getting started at our school, and make sure that you're able to navigate the things that you need to get started. And we can also talk about the point system and how that works. I think, are we going to touch on that today at all, Crystal? Okay, so we'll touch on that a little bit later, but that's something that I can also talk about with students as they prepare for the program. And of course, just the classes that you need. So this is a standard planner. Most likely, we're going to create a planner together. And I kind of touched on working through the prerequisites. So just really quick, you'll have to have Math 95 or higher, 2 writing courses, There's two psychology courses that we want you to have, medical terminology, arts and letters, biology 112. Again, that's that key prereq to enter into the anatomy series, and then microbiology. There's nutrition in the fall. So this is kind of what it would look like standard wise if you were starting from the beginning.
Yeah, on this, I do want to add, I know there have been circumstances where I want to make sure that you know and are confident in your ability to apply. The applications will open January 6th for this program, and then they close March 31st. So I fully understand that you may still be in some prerequisites during that time, and you are still able to apply at that point. So if you're still taking prerequisites, as long as all of your prerequisites will be completed by September of 2024, 2025, sorry, then you can still apply. Now, you won't necessarily get the points that we're going to talk about coming up, but it doesn't tend to make a drastically huge difference unless we have a tremendous number of applicants. So we'll talk about points coming up, but I just always forget to let you know that do not be discouraged if you know you have to apply in the spring term, but you're still finishing prerequisites over the summer. It's okay, as long as you're going to be done with those before the start of the program. So we want you to reach out to your advisor, which at this point is Blake. If you have a question, you're not sure who to ask, if you're struggling academically, if you're struggling financially, if you want a sounding board for academic and career decisions. As I said, once you're admitted into the program, then you will start reaching out to Professor Barton. That's not to say that you cannot still reach out to Blake. You definitely can. They have different areas of expertise as well. Professor Barton has been at Oregon Coast Community College for about 20 years or so, so she also knows quite a bit of resources. But if you reach out to us for help within the nursing program, we tend to focus more on the nursing program, whereas Blake's perspective is far-reaching across the college. So maybe you need to know, like, maybe you can't buy a book and you need resources, help with resources paying for a book. Then Blake can help you and direct you in the right places. So that's kind of how that whole outreach and things work out. We'll reach out to you just to check in. You'll be reaching out to us for mentor programs. We also do sometimes send early alerts. So if we send an early alert out to your advisors, then they'll touch base with you and say, like, what's going on? Is there something that we can help you with? And then frequently there'll be communication in terms of announcements, deadlines, information about scholarships, and things like that. In terms of some resources, we have an extremely nice library. The library, it has several private study rooms attached to it. They are first come, first serve. Those don't get reserved, but a lot of our students love them, and we are the highest utilizing department of those rooms. We use them a lot for studying. The students use them to work on their group projects. Students have been using them to take their tests on campus. So there's a lot of different ways that you can utilize those. We do highly, highly encourage you to form study groups. So those are great for those study sessions when you're working together. OCCC offers math and writing labs. Tutoring, tutoring is a little bit more difficult with nursing because our content is so specific and so involved. So really how we are managing tutoring is we will offer our second year students community service hours if they pair up with first year students to help tutor you. So that's one way that we have been able to accomplish like a built-in tutor within the program that has already been where you've been, that understand everything that you're going through. I mentioned our mentorship program. At the start of the program, each one of you will be assigned a mentor. Right now, the mentors are myself, Professor Barton, Professor Sky, and then we have Professor Joy Thayer, who also works almost on a full-time basis as faculty as well. And then you have me as the dean of the program. You still have me. People get nervous sometimes just going straight to the head of the program. Please don't. I really like you all. I like to get to know you. I know all the students by name too. I don't run a program where you're disconnected from me. I like to be on the same level with you at all times, getting to know you. You've met Blake. Blake reports to Ben Kaufman. I'm 100% certain that his title is wrong on this slide, simply because I have a hard time remembering what his title is, but he basically oversees all of student services. We do have student resource navigators as well that can help you find resources within the community. And when you come to orientation, I actually ask her to come join us and talk to you about all the resources available in the community. We have some diversity and inclusion, IA Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and a variety of other committees. We have a student government. We also have a bookstore, which, by the way, has fantastic food, especially their quesadillas. Those are my personal favorite. So just a plug for them. And it's very inexpensive too. Financial aid. Blake, you're the expert on this one.
I might not be an expert, at least yet, but we do have a financial aid team, though, that if there is something that's, I don't know, more involved, we can ask for help. I can get you in touch with them. But I am a starting point as far as getting, regular kind of basic FAFSA questions and being prepared for the school year. So part of that is a couple things that maybe already mentioned. But applying for the FAFSA, it is currently open. It just opened a couple weeks ago, I think. So if you haven't yet done so, now is a great time to get into your FAFSA account or create a new one and get your FAFSA application going. Another good resource is OSAC, that's Oregon Student Aid and Access and Completion or something along those lines. But that has another form of aid through grants and scholarships. And so I would definitely recommend checking that out. It's very focused on Oregon students applying for college and community college opportunities, lots of grants there. So check that out. The Ford Family Foundation is another one that has lots of monies for students that are applying for scholarships. So there might be something in there that fits your situation. And beyond that, there's a lot of other scholarships as well. So as far as you want to go into applying for scholarships, you can put as much time and energy into it as possible and hopefully get more money. And the last one that I'll mention is our own foundation scholarship. We have a pretty high rate of students that apply and get some sort of award. The award varies depending on what you get, but that opens February. I can't remember the exact date, but believe it's in February. If you go to our webpage, I think it's also in that student services area. There's a financial aid area and then a scholarships page. If you go there, it'll have information for everything I just mentioned, including an application for our foundation scholarship in February. So definitely mark your calendars for that. Keep that in the back of your mind. See if you can get some extra funding.
Definitely. What we have found, also during your orientation sessions, once you're admitted, we have a couple required orientations that you'll have to attend. We ask the people from the foundation to come and talk to you about this as well. What you will find and what we have realized is that there are scholarships that go unclaimed because there is this mistaken belief that a lot of people apply for them and you won't get any money, and that's not true. Sometimes the different scholarships have different requirements, like sometimes you have to write an essay, sometimes you have to have an interview. There's different processes like letters of recommendation and things like that. But we highly encourage you to apply for every scholarship that you're eligible for because you just don't know how many other candidates there are for the scholarship. But every dollar helps you when you get into the program. So the application itself, there are two different applications, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing. You can make it less confusing by starting now. So Blake already referred to it. You can go to onto the OCCC homepage and apply now to the college. That's the first start. This is how it facilitates your Oregon Coast email address and everything else that we use to stay in touch with you. So you do that. This is absolutely no cost. You can do this today. You can do it anytime before the nursing application opens on January 6th. Blake has indicated he would like you to do this before you meet with him. Meeting with him is a requirement for applying to the program. We have a running spreadsheet where when I get applications from you, I'll reach out to Blake and say, have you met with this student? It is part of the application process is having that initial meeting with a student success coach. You also want to start sending your transcripts and so that we can complete a transcript evaluation. This is the lengthiest process, and you need to know if there are any issues with your transcripts, things that you might not have already that Blake needs to advise you on. He may need to get you started in arts and letters, things like that. So the sooner that you can get started on these things, the better. So I highly recommend you're already working on this. So fill out the application and then do a transcript evaluation request, which is also on the webpage. On January 6th, the nursing application will open. It will be posted everywhere. It is a different kind of application. So you go onto that link, you apply for that. There is a $200 application fee. Admission for this program is 100% based on a point structure. So what and I'm going to show you what you get points for some things coming up. So really it works out to everything that you are going to turn into me as part of the application process has points attached to it. The person with the highest number of points gets the first seat in the program, and so on and so forth until all of the seats in the program are full. It is a completely objective process. It is the best way that we've ever found to do it because it's fair and it's equitable, which is what our goal is. You don't have to give us any background checks, drugs, tests, vaccinations, or ACLS, BLS certifications at all until you're accepted into the program. Once you're accepted into the program, things start to move pretty quickly. I plan to let people know that they're accepted into the program. It usually is around the 1st of June-ish. It used to be a lot earlier, but now there's a lot more that goes into the application process. Blake did go over this already. This is just a different way to look at it in terms of where your points are coming from. This is why the transcripts are so important as well. This is a list of all of your prerequisites. Your arts and letters and your social sciences are attached to points. You get 7 points for an A, 5 points for a B, 0 points for a C. So you can see how those things add up. And then when it comes to all of your bio classes and your nutrition classes, you get 20 points for an A, 15 points for a B, nothing for a C. So if you've been a straight A student all along, then you already have what is it, 114 points right there if you already have your arts and letters done and your social sciences done. You don't have to have arts and letters and social sciences done to get into the program. You have to have those done before you graduate from the program. We do highly, highly recommend that you have them done before you enter the program because I will tell you, and I'm sure Professor Sky will agree, that once you get into this program, it is your full-time job. It is rigorous, it is difficult. It's difficult for people to work full-time, let alone also be taking classes that they could have done before they entered the program. It just really does require your full attention once you're admitted into the program. And we have really solid data to back that up that shows a direct correlation to those that are walking into nursing, just taking nursing courses and doing a minimal amount of work outside the program. So this is the point sheet that you will be emailed. This is an older version. I'm in the process of updating this. It'll be available when the application opens. So this is something that will be sent to you, and you have to fill this out for yourself as part of the admission process. This is something that has to come back to me. We use this to kind of cross match your transcript evaluations and so that you understand where you have points and where you're missing points. So you just fill out, these are the courses, and you just fill out where you took them, when you completed them, what grade you got. You write your points in and you kind of start figuring things out on your own so that it's not a surprise how many points you have in the end. These are some other areas that you'll get points. This is outdated. I have a slide coming up that shows you current point structure. So this is current point structure. So these are the things I'm looking for to award you some points. If you have some type of professional license, so whether that's a CNA license, an LPN license, EMT certification, CMA certification, QMHA certification, CNA2, and you can prove through a work verification form that you will request through our department, then you get 10 points. If you're working as, I've had this happen, this is the only reason that I mention it. If you're working as a CNA as well as a tech, a CNA and an EMT, and you can provide us verification from both places, you get 2 sets of points. So you would get 20 points for that. So there is an opportunity to double up on points if you carry both certifications and you've met the work requirements. We give you points for having prior degrees. If you have an associate's degree, you get 5 points. A bachelor's degree is 10 points. A master's degree is 15 points. And those can be in any field. They don't have to be anything nursing related. If you have taken your prerequisite courses at Oregon Coast, you get 2 points for every required course that you took, up to a max of 16 points. If you are a Lincoln County resident, you get 10 points. If you're employed within the Samaritan system, you get 5 points. So those are all things that are going to be added into the point structure. So to save us all time, these are questions that I commonly get asked. So I just go ahead and address them, and then I'll close out my PowerPoint, and then you all will have a chance to ask us questions. So how many students will be admitted? We will be admitting 40 in the fall. So quite a big class. That is what we did last year too. We currently have 34 students in, is that right, Willow? 34? Yeah. We currently have 34 students still remaining in the program, so we will be admitting 40. What is the minimum number of points I need to get to be accepted? There isn't one. The person whoever applies with the highest number of points sets the bar. So it's kind of like, think of it like a bell curve. That becomes the highest point structure. And then I just admit the next 40 people. There are also alternates accepted. So if you aren't one originally accepted, you become an alternate. And as people are, because life happens, right? So you apply in January, and by the time I send acceptance letters in June, maybe you got accepted somewhere else and decided to go there. Maybe you're moving, maybe you change your mind. Then people often decline their seats. So then I go on to the next alternate. So do not be frustrated if you get alternate status, because it ends up that maybe you'll go ahead and you'll still get in. If you're still working on prerequisites, that's fine. I already addressed that. I already told you that the application opens on January 6th. When will you know if you're accepted? You'll know by June 1st. And I personally call everyone that's accepted to congratulate you on getting into the program. And I ask you at that point whether or not you'd like to accept your seat or not, so that I know whether or not I should go on to an alternate. So at that point, let me stop sharing and give you a chance to ask any questions that any of you may have.
I have a question. For the 2 points that up to 2 points, up to 16 that you get for the prerequisites, if that prerequisite is like anatomy, or is that like those ones, like the anatomy and physiology? And
Right.
say I get an A in that, so then I would get up to the max points and an additional 2?
Right. So say you got an A
Okay.
by 234, you would get
Mm,
the 20 points and an
mhm.
additional 2 points for taking that as a prerequisite. Correct.
Perfect. Okay.
So I have a question. Do you guys have actual like payment plans for the program?
I don't know that. Blake, do you know the answer to that?
I know that you can, if you're paying out of pocket, you can break down the payments into three different payments over the course of a term. And in general, you can talk to our student accounts and kind of have a conversation depending on your situation as well. That's if it's out of pocket, if otherwise we're talking financial aid or scholarships, grants, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Are the points for the degrees as are the licenses or certifications? If you have like a bachelor's and a master's, do you get both or do you just get one or the other?
You get both. And
Oh, wow.
if you have multiple associate's degrees, you get points for each associate degree you have.
Perfect.
How much does the program end up costing?
That is a good question. The cost sheets are being redone. I don't have a good number for you, but the cost sheets, once they're revised, they'll be on the website. So when it comes to nursing, there's a lot of different factors that go into cost, right? So you have your tuition, you have your books. One thing that we do is we work really closely with Elsevier, which is our vendor for books, and we actually order the packages for you. And they become available in the bookstore. So then you can purchase your books through the bookstore using financial aid or scholarships or everything else. And by doing that for you, it tends to reduce the cost of books by about $700 for the year, for the whole program. When you buy the book package as an incoming first year student, you get all the books you need for the entire program, which also saves you money. In addition to that, we do use some resources that have a cost, like we use Picmonic as a resource, we use Osmosis as a resource, we use vSim as a resource. And those are about $100 each for a 2-year subscription. So those get added to your student account too, because we pay for them upfront and then bill your student accounts for them. So the cost changes a little bit based on how much the vendors charge us for these resources.
And then would you say it would be smart to apply after winter term if you don't have all the points that you're wanting?
Yeah, you can definitely apply as soon as the application opens, or you can wait as long as March 31st. If you're going to apply, just make sure it doesn't matter when you apply. Like you don't get 10 points for being the first to apply. So it doesn't matter when you apply as long as you're in there by the deadline. Historically, we get this huge rush of applications the first week, and then we get about 50% of our applications the last 2 weeks of March. That tends to be how it plays out. So as long as you apply before March 31st, your application is in there and counted.
Are you guys still looking for letters of recommendation?
There will be a letters of recommendation on the point structure as well. And that's going to be worth 20 points. There's also going to be an essay added in, and that will be worth 20 points.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we do not do any pre-admission testing for first year. So like if you were applying as an LPN to RN, you would have to take like a pre-admission test to get in. We don't make anyone do that that's applying for the first year of the program.
Do you have a little bit more info on that BSN, like the one that you're saying, like this coming year you were going? Because I do have a master's and a bachelor's, so that's eventually what I want to do is get my
Yeah.
BSN, my MSN to become a healthcare administrator, because that's what my undergrad is in.
Okay.
is in healthcare admin. So I was kind of looking to see how that bridges over to that BSN.
Yep, for sure. So you would complete the 2-year program. So say you were accepted into the program, your 2-year program would end in June. You would graduate in June. You would take your NCLEX exam, and then you could start the BSN program through us in September. So it's just that seamless transition into the program. I will say too that there are some students that really we don't love to advise it. In fact, we really don't like to advise it at all, just because it increases your burden. There are some programs that have a concurrent enrollment for a bachelor's program. So while you're in nursing school, you can also be concurrently working on your bachelor's program to do that. But we have also found a link in students that do that tend to end up stepping out of their bachelor's program and finish afterwards because the workload is just so great in the nursing program. So but the bachelor's program that we're going to be able to offer at home is one where you can focus on nursing and then go seamlessly into getting your bachelor's degree, which will get you in the door of healthcare administration because that's where it starts.
Yeah. And then what is I guess the difference? So if I'm doing the 2-year program and then you guys have the BSN, like what is that? How long is that BSN like that added? And what's like, not necessarily what's the difference, but what's the add-on, if you will? Like if I'm already taking all those allied classes and those nursing classes.
Yeah, bachelor's classes are different. So they're a lot more evidence-based. They're a lot more focused on leadership, management, healthcare administration, ethics, legalities, global health, things like that. You do a capstone within the community. So it
Mm.
is 15 months after you have your RN degree that you have a bachelor's degree, which is aligned with every other bachelor's program in Oregon.
Right. And do you guys do transfer credits into that one, seeing as like I have global health, I have legal and ethical principles of healthcare and all that?
That's something that's still being decided. Like I said, it's a very
Okay.
program.
Yeah.
We know that it will start in the fall of 2026, but we are still waiting for some various levels of approval. So in terms of
Okay.
transfer credits and things, probably not because the content's going to be different. And
Got
it's
it.
going to be more nursing focused, where
Right.
you may have taken a global class before, but it's not in the context of being a bachelor's prepared nurse that you took that class. So it becomes different curriculum.
Right. Okay. Sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For the letter of recommendation, do you guys have rubrics posted online? Is that going to be the same format? Or are you guys going to update that format?
Nope, that's the rubric won't change for that.
Okay.
A follow-up on the letter of recommendation is that do you accept that even before you get chosen, or do you only accept that once you're already chosen in the program?
No, that's part of the application process. So the letter of recommendation and the essay, if you don't turn those in, you're no longer considered for the program mostly because it's going to drop you out of any point structure at all. But those are required components of the application process. So you need to submit it as during that application process.
Thank you.
Yep. And the information will be provided once the application is posted. It will be very clear how you get that information for us. The nursing application, not the college application. It will include information that says that basically I can tell you it's going to be that you need to send me and Professor Sky your essay and your letter of recommendation. And then we start building files for all of you. And then once the application cycle closes, that's when we go back to the files and we start adding in the points on a really huge spreadsheet.
On the essay, will that be posted online to what you expect? How
It
is
will
that?
not be. That is a good question. So how the essay is going to work is once the application closes, and I know how many people have officially applied, there's going to be Zoom sessions or in-person sessions at the college set up for the essays. So you are going to be required to do the essay in a controlled environment. because we know that plagiarism happens, and you're not going to get the prompt for the essay until you have signed up for a session and you're in one of these controlled sessions. So the sessions will be like 3 people in one session. You'll get the same essay prompt, and then you'll have to write the essay within a 30-minute period of time and submit it. That way, we know that we're controlling the prompt, that there's no use of AI or Chat GPT or using someone else's essays or things like that. So the essay is required, but it comes after the application closes, but is still part of the requirements of the application process.
How long does this essay need to be?
You will get all of those instructions at the time that you're given the essay because they vary a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I was curious about the cell biology. So I've taken all of my sequences of anatomy and physiology, and then it was brought to my attention that I need cell biology. And you were saying that, or Blake, somebody was saying that it's only offered in spring term. So if I take microbiology, do I still have to go back and take that cell biology? Like, is that required, or is that just going to give me 2 points off if I don't take it? Or do I have to take it?
Do you want me to answer that, Crystal?
Yep, that sounds like an advising question to me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Biology 112 is a prerequisite for a requirement. So it's not necessarily a requirement in and of itself, if that makes sense. So if someone took Biology 234 at a different school that didn't have biology, or if at another school it didn't require Biology 112, then you could bypass that if that's kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah.
But it's not like the specific Biology 112 course doesn't count for points.
Perfect.
I'm surprised that nobody's asked about class structure and clinicals. Do you want to know about that now, or are you just overwhelmed? Do you want that information? Okay, so as it stands now, the schedule for fall, this is like I've alluded to and stated in a couple different ways that this program does become essentially a full-time job. So you have 2 days of theory classes, and those are Mondays and Thursdays. We have it set up where Mondays classes, they're 9 to 11:50 roughly, and Mondays classes are in Newport. Thursdays classes are in Lincoln City. So that's 2 days out of the week. You have exams. There's 6 exams during every term. Those are on Monday afternoons, except for the final exam varies a little bit. Clinicals vary. They can be any other day of the week. There is a large number of clinical days required. We go to both of the hospitals in Lincoln County as well as Avamere, which is in Newport. And then you also have the community service. So when you're planning your life for fall, you can plan to be busy at least 4 days a week during the term. And then because we also have required lab days for the first 6 weeks of the program, first 6 weeks of the course. And then you also have simulation in the lab with our high fidelity mannequins. So it's a pretty busy structure of classes and time.
What was the time for the Thursday up in Lincoln City? Is that still 9 a.m. to 11:50?
Yep, that's the classes
Okay.
all the time. And then you also have, depending on when Professor Sky schedules it, there's like a clinical conference day in one of the afternoons too. I believe she's been doing it on Thursdays. We like to follow it after classes, so like your Mondays and your Thursdays are full. You have Mondays class exams, Thursdays class clinical conference.
I wasn't able to catch the days of the clinicals.
They vary. Clinicals vary. I didn't give specific days. I just said they could be any other day of the week besides Mondays and Thursdays because those are class days. We have some Friday clinicals. We have some Saturday clinicals. We try to steer clear of Sunday clinicals, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. Clinicals are possible any of those days.
Thank you.
Full-time work, do you recommend going down to like Saturday and Sunday or like
Oh.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
So what we cannot do is recommend your work schedule. However, we will tell you and we will advise you that working full-time is very, very difficult when you do this program. That being said, students do attempt it a lot, and then they find out pretty quickly on that they are overworking themselves and they're not able to focus on the requirements of the program and that their grades are reflecting it. So they tend to drop down to like a 3/4 time work schedule or a half time work schedule. We are not able to say like don't work full time, but what we can say is that we recommend that you look at your work-life balance and figure out what works best for you in terms of managing your school schedule, which is pretty intense, with your work schedule and your home life schedule and balance. Professor Sky, if you have anything to add on that one.
When we go
What
into
you
the
said.
oops, sorry.
Just historically, people they don't consider that all the way through. At some point, you have to make a choice.
Yeah. Did you have a question, Amanda?
Yeah, sorry. I was curious, when you do the clinicals, are they assigned to you or do you somewhat get a choice of where you'll be going?
You do not
No
get a
choice.
choice. Mm-mm. Professor Sky and I assign all the clinicals.
Okay, and then like the days as well, or do we get to
Yes.
choose
You
like
don't get
what?
a choice. There's no, you
Okay.
don't get a choice. It's based on a huge puzzle that we have to put together that includes all of first year and all of second year with all of the available clinical spots we have.
Okay.
Is there anything else we can answer for you before we end the session?
So I have a question. I was curious. So you were saying how that sometimes you do clinicals at the hospital and sometimes you do clinicals at Avamere. I'm currently an employee at Avamere. So I was wondering if that conflict, I know in past nursing programs, you haven't allowed people to work at their or like do clinicals at their work. Um, I've heard through the grapevine that that's lessened. Is that still going to be lessened, or is that kind of discouraged?
So if you work at Avamere, we won't place you at Avamere. But
Okay.
if you work at the hospital, you could still be placed there. You just won't be able to do clinicals on the unit in which you work. So,
Oh,
for example, Professor Sky works at the Newport Hospital. And so if one of her students worked on med surg with her, they wouldn't be able to do their clinicals necessarily on med surg. We would try to switch them hospitals. So we would try to put them, if you work in Newport, we would try to put you in Lincoln City, vice versa. And then if we would try to keep you out of med surg the best that we could, or we would put you at Avamere. So we do try to avoid places that you work still. Sometimes out of necessity and the available clinical spots we have to, and then we just oversee it with a little bit more structure and a lot more rules.
oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions?
Going back to the recommendation letter, I was wondering, it sounds like there's already a rubric posted. Where is that located? Or like guidelines as to what is on your recommendation letter?
I believe it's on the nursing website under additional information.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so if you're, I mean, you definitely want to start collecting your pieces of data now. January 6th comes pretty fast. And then it opens and then you're free to apply, but just start collecting the things. Like there's nothing really you can do about the essay because that will come after, but you can definitely get your start sending in your transcripts. Definitely apply for the college. Have your appointment with Blake. It is the holidays. The college does close for about a week during the holidays, so the appointments will be slim. So work on that as fast as you can. Is it Gail? Is that how you say your name?
Yeah, I just had a question for Blake. What are those, are you available during the break, this winter break, for appointments?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is my calendar is starting to book really quickly. Because this is when our current students are getting ready to register for winter term still. And so I don't know, I can talk to Crystal later maybe, but the capacity may or may not be an issue. We'll see. But if you go to our advising page, you can make an appointment. But I'm really flexible. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I might make a different appointment link that's shorter for you all specifically, so I can get to more of you. But you can start by emailing me or going to my appointment link, whatever works better for you.
If you
Okay.
have that handy, you can just put it in the chat for them, your link.
Yes.
Then they can just link it out.
I do want to let me
Or
see.
just link to the advising page maybe to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, 1 second.
I'm going to put my email in the chat too in case you have any questions. You're free to reach out to me at any time with any questions that you may have. It's crystal.bowman@oregoncoast.edu. Are there any other questions that we can answer for you before we end?
I do have one more question backtracking to clinicals about how early of a heads up do we get where we're being placed so we could work around our work schedule? Like if we had to do like a Saturday or a Friday clinicals, like how much of a heads up do we get like time wise?
Yeah, we can never promise you a time frame because
Okay.
unfortunately, we are at the mercy of other people telling us what clinicals they have available. So once we know what's available, we put together the schedule and we post it. For the fall, you'll have it probably a month in advance of you starting the term. But the sessions after that are a little bit shorter notice because, well, the winter session we have you might have about 30 days, the spring session less, because there's less time between those sessions. So we get, I guess the standard answer that Willow and I like to give you is you will have it as soon as we have it. And that's the
Okay.
best that we can do when we're putting together this big puzzle.
Okay.
One thing I will say, a question that comes up, it hasn't yet. Maybe it's less important these days. It used to be one of the most important questions I asked. The COVID vaccine is no longer required. You can sign a declaration form for the COVID vaccination now. You can also decline the flu vaccination, just with the knowledge that if you decline a COVID or flu vaccinations, you do have to wear a mask at all times during clinicals. So that question comes up quite a bit as people struggle to figure out if they would like to be vaccinated for COVID. There is on the website, there is a list of all required vaccinations that you cannot get exceptions for. So you can also start working on getting your vaccination records and then also getting titers if you need to, because we can't send you to any type of clinical if you don't meet required compliancy requirements. You have to be 100% compliant by the first day of the term, or it does result in a dismissal from the program because we consider our labs and simulation to be on-site clinical. So to go to any type of clinical at all, you have to be 100% compliant with drug screen, background check, fingerprints, immunizations, all the things that we ask for. So it's a good idea if you start looking at that list too and just preparing yourself for what you're going to need to come into the program.
Well, I have a
And
question.
go ahead.
Sorry.
Sorry.
How current do your titers need to be?
So you're going to need to have them within the past year of the program. Because
Okay.
yeah, and I mean I'm a good example. I had childhood vaccinations and then I didn't test, but my titers showed that I was not immune. So I had to go and get more shots, which may happen. Which if you're someone that needs to do titers, you need to get those because if you're not immune, you're going to have to get parts of the series or boosters and then you're going to have to get another titer to show that you're immune.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The titer was half of my question. And then for the COVID vaccinations, do you have to have like all the up-to-date boosters that they require every year or whatever the recommendations are now, or can it stay like, oh, you've had the first two that were recommended originally and it's fine?
So
Or do
because
you have to?
because I mean what the preference is that just like a flu shot, you get your updated COVID booster every year. Otherwise, you're not immune to the new strains of COVID that are coming out, just like you won't be protected against the flu every year. So that is the requirement, and that is what the Oregon Health Authority also recommends. But since the COVID vaccination is no longer required, we can't dictate to you that you get a booster every year. So if you're not current in terms of a current COVID vaccination and a booster, you're going to have to sign the declination form and thus wear a mask. That's how that works.
Okay.
So anytime that we say current vaccination, that's based on Oregon Health Authority guidance as well as the CDC. So you'll see like when you have questions from me about COVID vaccinations, I will often send you a link to the CDC and say these are the current COVID requirements. In order to be compliant, this is what you have to do. What type of mask? It's just a mask that you would wear in the hospital. I'm not talking about an N95. N95s you only have to wear if you're going into like a COVID patient's room, but it's just a typical ear loop mask that you would have to wear in the hospital.
Kind of backtracking again, I was curious of like what you could tell us about the application essay. Like, is it going to be, medical based? Like, do we have to study for it?
Nope, it's nothing
Okay.
that you'll need to study for. I mean, it's it's things that show us your personality. So, I can tell you, let me see some past questions. There's a pool of 60 essay questions, so it doesn't hurt me telling you a couple examples. One of the essay questions is, you might be given a scenario, like an ethical scenario, and it be asked, what would you do in this situation? It's not like you definitely would not have to write an essay that tells me the components of the biological cell cycle or anything like that. It's not like that at all. It's more personal, it's more subjective. Like, how would you handle this situation? How do you define teamwork? Why do you want to be a nurse? Tell me about an experience in your life that's been meaningful, like things like that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, it sounds like all the questions have been answered. If after this session you're laying awake, thinking of questions to ask, please feel free to send me an email. I am taking Professor Skyer and I are off a good portion of December. So if you send an email, there might be a little bit of a delay. And then also, please make sure you're applying to the college, getting those appointments scheduled with Blake. Even if you're scheduling into January with him, that's fine. Just know that it's a requirement that you do meet with him at some point before you can be accepted into the program. And I look forward to hearing from you, look forward to seeing all of your applications and welcoming you to the program in the fall.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.